So I watched this weirdly titled movie, and it's obviously meant to be very much a parody, as opposed to just no. And it actually sort of works where many others do not. It seems. I don't know what it is. It's and I don't normally watch these kind of movies, especially. I mean, I don't usually like either violent movies. I mean, this wasn't violent; it was very much, but even the supposed violent scenes, were just a parody as well. I mean, supposedly there was violence, but it was still very much a parody. I know it was. I don't know. Make a sort of difference, I suppose, when it is meant as a parody as opposed to, well, even though it's a movie, so ultimately it's still fictional. But it makes some sort of difference. For comedy, of course, it just needs to be, in my opinion, at least. But as I say, I don't normally watch many of these movies. Partially because of that, but partially also because I do not understand a lot of the slang, and I get frustrated. I mean, I still have difficulty with the slang here, but at least it had very many comic elements. Now, I remember watching another one that supposedly is similar and spawned the whole franchise, with an animated series as well that I still haven't watched because it didn't quite interest me very much. So, I mean, it's supposed to be similar at least. And this Friday movie that apparently came out a couple of years earlier, so I think, and I don't mean, of course, the song, certainly, that would be absurd, it's possibly even less interesting. Yeah. No, so I mean the one with so-called Ice Cube in it. I had no idea he was a actor before then. But, what's strange is that apparently this is still just 1 year apart. Yeah, it's supposed to be a comedy, buddy comedy. I didn't see what the comedy is. I mean certainly it wasn't as ridiculous as this one here. So maybe I I prefer the caricatures, I guess, maybe. But I really couldn't detect the comedy. It was much more serious. So yeah, it wasn't a parody, but I mean, it's been years now since I've seen it, so I might be forgetting something. But I don't remember the comedy. And yeah, it's supposed to, and it spawned the whole franchise, so it's kind of ridiculous. You know how it's like the most boring movies, in my opinion, at least, happen to be the ones which spawn franchises. Although I still want at some point to watch the animation, because usually animated, whatever, it tends to be better than live, but I don't know how, if ever I'd watch the whole franchise. I don't suppose this one had a franchise. It's certainly better than the serious versions, at least. And honestly, when it comes to parodies, generally, I don't know what it is, because I mean, it's not like so parodies generally do seem to involve caricatures. So it's not like they don't tend to get something and make it extreme, make it absurd. But I guess it's how you do it, really, and how much you do it, I guess. Yeah, I guess maybe. Because I mean, if one looks at another parody director, thinking of what's it called again? Not good at names. So I'll get to that later. Anyway, I'm just saying, like um, as an example of one of this person's movies, yeah. So as an example, take so-called high anxiety, right? I mean, it still has parodies. It still has caricatures. It's very much so. In fact, there's two similar characters, yeah, from both movies. I don't know why it is, but apparently they think that if you make strange motions while talking with your mouth, as in strange motions with your mouth while talking, that somehow it's a caricature, and I guess it sort of is. It's I mean, the funniest thing ever, obviously. It's what you do with it still, right? Like in this movie here, what was done with it. And even that movie, I mean, tried to, at some points, it tried to be sort of, outrageous at some points, only slightly though. I don't know if it's because it's from 40 years ago. I don't know. But I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily got to do with time, does it? So I mean, I don't know. It just see. There's this problem, I think, more widespread than these couple of movies or parodies generally, of edginess, right? The problem with edginess. Some people seem to think that being edgy can lead to comedy. It really doesn't, certainly not automatically or anything. So this is the weird thing. I mean, this movie, I guess you could call it edgy, from the 90s. So certainly long before many of these so-called edgelords these days, last couple of decades, who think they're so hilarious and they're given platforms, and yet go on to claim that they're not. Anyway, so, yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know. I mean, some people seriously think that this is just because people don't find them funny because they aren't. I mean, sure, comedy is subjective ultimately, so I'm sure some find all kinds of comedy interesting, funny. Obviously, ultimately, it's on average how many find it funny. Obviously, I'm talking about my own perspective. Mostly not the average, but anyway, the point is though, I think there is such a thing as being edgy and funny, or one or the both or such. Now, this movie was both, possibly. I mean, you see, the key I think with this movie is that it wasn't edgy for its own sake. It's like going near a bee's home, and shaking it, and then just expecting the bees not to come after you. Yeah, it's kind of what many do, these days. So-called comedians these days. Yeah. Except of course they just expect the bees to laugh, and if they don't laugh, that one word they use, I don't even bother. I don't even care about repeating. It's so pathetic. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, the point is though, some really do seem to demand that people find everything they say is funny. It's ridiculous, obviously. I mean, obviously, there's no such thing as demanding people find something funny, because it's subjective, as I said. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's others who didn't find this movie funny, but overall, I found it funny somehow, and I think the key lies in the fact that it's self-aware. So it's not edgy for its own sake, and no other reason. It's it's kind of self-aware, and it does everything with that awareness in mind. And it doesn't do it just for its own sake, but I mean, there is something to it. And despite its self-awareness, though, it's not serious. Obviously, right? It's very much a comedy, nothing serious, and that's what's positive about it, because comedies can turn into either sentimentality or just general seriousness, or in the case of rom-coms, obviously they really try to be romantic when they usually utterly fail at that, because I don't know, mostly it seems like either choose one or the other. I'm not sure how you could really do both per se. I mean, yeah, I guess you could have some sort of good ratio of both, but mostly. Anyway, this though, yeah. So I mean, it's you know, so obviously it has its bit, but I mean it's ultimately I think funny. It seems to me. I mean, obviously the granny. I think the granny. Yeah, the granny was the sort of VIP, wasn't it? I guess in a way, it's all very much a caricature of everyone is a caricature, but the granny, I mean, when she says this is good shit. I mean, it's and then when she breakdowns there, where obviously, I mean, everyone notices it's very obvious that she's not a real granny. Although the makeup does actually make her look like one, but yeah, the reason why she could break dance is that she wasn't the real granny. Pretty sure even if you break dance all your life, you still wouldn't be able to when you're that old. I'm pretty sure the body cannot take that much. Yeah, but anyway, this is the thing though. It's self-aware all over. It's interesting for it. I mean, as I say, it's not like in the church scene as well. If we're talking about it, like the pastor is I mean, it's so obvious, right? Like I mean, there's such cases everywhere. Where pastors tell people to donate. But obviously he does it here in this movie in a way that makes it obvious as to what he's doing, whereas in reality that wouldn't be so. So that's what makes it funny. Obviously, it's so in a sense he's not he's not I mean the funniest or the most outrageous, but just laying out reality in a more obvious fashion than most do. I mean obviously most would just say donate for God or whatever. They don't actually say do not mind if I have a big house like he was saying in the movie. So I guess that's what makes it go from. I mean, not just serious. It's also comic though. It's not the funniest bit, but it's comic. And then the fact that it doesn't reference it at all, and it just immediately go into breakdowns. Yeah, that is funny. I guess you could say. Yeah, everything else is also something. I mean, the way it plays with expectations. Like that one scene where supposedly they're going to be tough with that one guy, and they end up doing ropes. Yeah, that was really funny and how unexpected it was. Obviously, it has quite a comic beginning as well. I thought there for a bit though that it was its peak. I guess straight after it wasn't as funny, but I guess it just built up for a bit. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what it was, but after Friday, I didn't have high expectations. I cannot believe it was labeled as a comedy, and in my opinion, it really wasn't. Like I'm sure it had some elements. This is the problem, of course, with the comedy genre. Many movies are included in such a but obviously, I mean, they're often included even if they just have a couple of scenes as such. So it's, regardless of how many scenes, whereas this, yeah, it was full of comic scenes. So it certainly was way funnier than Friday ever was. I don't remember it being funny at all. I remember it being much more serious than anything, honestly. I think I might have seen some of the serious sort of such movies. I forgot which though. So yeah. I honestly haven't seen many though. I actually haven't seen any of the ones that this one is parodying. Apparently, they claim so like so Central apparently it's a reference to another movie that came out a couple of years earlier. I haven't seen yet, and this is the thing. So I mean, I don't suppose I need to watch them to really understand it. I mean, I found it funny either way. Similarly, I hadn't seen most movies that High Anxiety was parodying. I've seen like Psycho, which is obviously probably the most famous, but this is the thing, I mean, it's not a parody, in that sense. Then just it's more of a mimic, sort of mocking sort of thing, where instead of a knife, you use a newspaper. It's ridiculous, It's not funny. It's just whatever, And then there were birds that literally poop, which would be, I guess, what birds would do in reality. But it still doesn't quite really, yeah. I mean, this has something else, as opposed to just a sort of shallow sort of. I mean, it's not a parody. It's more, as I said, either mocking or mimicking. I mean, not exactly mimicking, obviously, because it's not the exact same thing, exact same action. But so I guess which is what sort of makes it mocking them, but not mocking in a making it seem like they don't like it. I mean, they're clearly inspired by it or a reference to it, but it's still not like I mean, it doesn't have anyway comedy inherent. That's the point. As opposed to here, where even the most serious, supposed serious scenes, where, even at the beginning there, the supposed mother sees her son supposedly killed, and and then she finds out that he's no longer not her son, and she leaves immediately. At the end, something similar happened, except he wakes up and starts demanding money, and so these juxtapositions, that supposedly revered parodists, like the director of that movie I mentioned. What's it called again? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know why some seem to be revered almost. It's ridiculous. When it comes to the Wayans, yeah, I mean, I cannot say that they're not that skill at comedy. I guess that it must be some sort of skill, but I just cannot believe how much nepotism is in action. Like a whole list there. There's a whole list of Wayans. I'm not saying. I mean, that, as I said, it's not like there isn't anything to it. So the fact that, for example, though they actually self-reference themselves. When they meet that supposed mother of 7 or 8, was it, children, different children. Yeah, and then they compared it to the Wayan family, so that was funny because that's okay. But written by a couple of Wayans who also act, which isn't to the similar form actually. Hindsight is the director, is the actors. I don't think he employed any other family member, and apparently it's produced by a Wayan as well. Yeah, I think it's he's. Is he have their father? Who is he? No. No. So anyway, it's kind of busy, I guess. It's just having fun, I guess, doing comedy. It's still quite a lot of not so much nepotism as familialism. I don't know what if siblingism. Anyway, yeah. Not sure if there are any other Wayans here. I don't think there are. Yeah, it's quite. I'm surprised there aren't actually. Oh yes, the mailman. Yeah, was the other Wayan. So they all act as well. Of course, they wouldn't miss acting. At least they didn't take the joke too far. When he came for a couple of times, I think it was, and said the message and such. Didn't take it too far, but yeah, it was funny when he suddenly turned into a baby. That's yeah. So as I said, this is an example of okay, it is edgy essentially. As edgy as it could be in the 90s, but suddenly after the 90s, there, I don't know, online mostly, people seem to think. Well, I don't know. They honestly think that edgy automatically equals funny or something, and mostly isn't. What they think is edgy and possibly funny is pretty much online bullying, which is absurd because I'm sure the bullies usually find it funny to bully, but I don't think generally, anyone else does. Literally, no one does. Well, other bullies, I guess, might do, but I see. This is not exactly, this is all done for comedy's sake, which is really how it should. I mean, it is. You know, it is risque, as a comedy. So not only does it have a lot of social commentary, shall we say, also has some sex comedy essentially. So in that sense, it really includes everything. That could be considered, risky, essentially, for a comedy movie, risky. Seems like it paid off, 20 million. Not that, because, as far as, for example, six comedies go, obviously, American Pie, I think, would be the most famous, or was it infamous? I don't know. And that's just ridiculous, They had a budget of 11 million, and they made 235, which is, I guess, the answer to how the hell did it spawn an endless franchise. Yeah. Personally, I really didn't find that funny. So this is the thing, obviously comedy is subjective, but I don't know, because people went, oh, fucking a pie, hilarious, nothing could be funnier than fucking a pie. I mean, the joke sort of wears itself out. I mean, there's a few bits that are funny, but mostly it's not. And then, in the third movie, it also degenerates to disgusting sort of comedy, I think, been some years now, but I think there was some poo ending up in a cake, or I don't know. I don't find that funny. I don't get it. At least there wasn't such outrageousness in this movie here, because it's just not funny in my opinion. As far as they went with the sex comedy aspects, though, it wasn't. It didn't go on for long anyway. So at best, I'm assuming that it was like 5 minutes, mostly, at most. What there wasn't too uninteresting, shall we say? I guess, I don't know. The thing where there was the transition in between, it began with a Hoover and ended up as someone calling out, and in real life, he ended up being asleep. Yeah, that was funny, I guess. Yeah, how people can dream, end up thinking that integrating what's happening in real life in a dream. That happens. Obviously, that in itself isn't the funny bit, but the way it happened, obviously, would be, how it happened. Although I suppose, there was a bit when it comes to, as in, a slight bit of discussed comedy, at one point during the same sort of section, but it didn't go for very long, So as long as you don't go for long, I guess, and do not overdo it, as in, really, some other movies, generally there's a lot of movies that seem to do it. At least I haven't counted many lately, but many movies seem to think that, people vomiting maybe is funny, or I don't know, generally vomiting is totally acceptable to include, or even if it might be irrelevant and easily deleted. So much is deleted usually, I'm assuming, from movies, like, the director's cut sometimes is I don't know, about 25% longer. So I think you could easily then cut vomiting. Just saying, yeah. But in terms of this movie, it was funny, even just based on the fact of what he had in his hair, like a dummy and dice. That's just visually funny, I guess you'd say, yeah. So even if it's not being, it's not just about social commentary or such, it's still funny, you know. I mean, and it wasn't just social commentary; it integrated comedy within it. So you know, uh, so obviously that's what made it funny, and that's how a comedy really should be. I guess I was going to be a comedy; it would be more of a drama, and obviously a drama, like in this sense here, would be just another violent movie, which I'm not terribly interested in. You know, I'm sure there could be some. It's too much sometimes, you know.